What's up, everybody? Welcome to On the Record, a punk music podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Ben Brennan, alongside Alex Newman. What's going on, Alex?
Kill all the white man, Ben.
It's a good sentiment.
Hang on. I got a question for you.
Yeah.
If moshing was an Olympic sport, what band would you want to play?
Like, wait. The band is the competitor, or
No. The people are moshing for sport.
Oh, okay.
Like, what's the soundtrack? Like, who's the band you go to?
I feel like you'd want to do different events for different styles of mosh, right? Like,
oh, well, I didn't even think about it that far.
I mean, I would say that, probably Madball would be a wonderful option for the Mosh Olympics, or I don't know, just a good thrash metal band or something. Who were you thinking?
I was thinking Sick of It All. That's, we'll talk about Sick of It All later on.
Yeah. Definitely Sick of It All would also be a great selection for the Mosh Olympics, for certain.
Absolutely. I just had it on my mind as I was listening to Sick of It All the other day. It's like, you know what? If moshing was an Olympic sport, this would be my choice.
Yeah. Wonder who would. Wonder how it would be rated. Would it be like gymnastics? Probably. I think it would have to be.
Probably, yeah.
So like
your technique.
People would be scored on like originality or like difficulty. And how well they pull it off too.
Yeah.
You can do something hard, you better do it well.
Yeah, your form matters, man.
Yeah. I definitely think that there'd probably also be like kind of like you could do like a circle pit event.
That's right.
You could do like you could grade like stage diving like they do like high diving and shit like that, right? Like people hold up numbers. I'm sure people have done that before already. I think that's it's probably got a future. If you can curl in the Olympics, you should be able to mosh.
Yeah. And they'll have I like the idea of having a whole bunch of different types of mosh events or crowd events, like sustained crowd surfing. That'd be a good one.
Oh yeah. All right. So, On the Record is a fan podcast where we discuss the Fat Records catalog, album by album, side by side, and chronologically. We have no real music expertise. We're just some shitheads shooting the shit about albums we loved growing up. Today we're going to discuss a bunch of EPs. We're going to look at the 2 EPs by 88 Fingers Louie that Fat put out, Go Away and Wanted, NOFX's The Longest Line EP, and then Guns and Wankers for Dancing and Listening. I only was like yesterday or maybe 2 years old. I very recently discovered that Guns and Wankers was meant to be a play on Guns N' Roses.
Really? I thought that was pretty obvious.
Oh, I just thought it was like, yeah, we got guns and we got wankers. I didn't really like put it together until like I was getting ready for this episode.
I mean, admittedly, this is a band that we both kind of skipped.
Yeah, absolutely. So, however, before we actually dive into that, Alex, we like to explain why the hell we're doing this. So why are we going through the Fat Records catalog?
I mean, for me, it's mostly to make fun of all the stupid cover songs that
they suck so much.
No, I mean, it's just these are the records that we, for the most part, we grew up listening to. We just want to revisit them.
Absolutely. All right. So this episode's going to have a wildly different structure than before because we're covering a lot of different releases. So, we're looking at EPs because Fat put out plenty of great EPs, not just LPs. And so we figure, we can kill a few birds with one recording.
Right.
All right. So who was on the first record? What is the first record that we're talking about?
First record we're talking about today is 88 Fingers Louie's Go Away. It was released on August 26th, 1993. The band lineup consisted of Dennis Buckley on vocals, Mr. Precision, Dan Willicklinski on guitar, Joe Principi on bass, and Dom Valone on drums. And there's I did my research here. There's really no information I could find on the recording details of this record. But I did happen to find, and Ben will be able to see this in our document here, pictures of the actual record, which admittedly, so all of these 88 Fingers Louie songs, they'll be collected on a CD that will be released on a different label in '97, I think. But so I think these are kind of locked to their respective vinyl discs for the most part at this point. But the artwork on the back it's funny. It's just like an awkward pic of Dom on drums, just playing live, and it's just taped onto a manila envelope with masking tape on the corners. The tracks are all written in marker, and there's a white scrap of paper with a message written on it from Dom that says the following: "Here's that cover art for our 7-inch. Call me and tell me what you think. Also, here's some pictures of us playing live. They are not great or anything. I just thought I would send you some for the fuck of it. Thinking about having the back cover a picture of us live, but the pictures I think are not good. Our guitarist looks like a fucking zombie or something." It's real low rent, and real DIY, and just you got like the Fat Wreck logo taped to the back of it too. It's got a nice aesthetic, I think, for a punk record.
Yeah, I feel like this is the aesthetic of a lot of early Fat releases too, though, right? Like,
Sure, yeah.
handwritten.
I mean, it's maybe even a little bit more DIY than any of the other ones, but in a fun way. It's cool. I like it. So yeah, let's start talking about Go Away. There's only 4 songs here, but I thought that overall this was pretty good for a first release.
Yeah. I thought nothing was most of the stuff I wrote was saying that they were like not bad or that they were fun. I think the worst thing I had to say about one of the songs is "This is fine."
Yeah. I mean, like, honestly though, like, no shade really, but like it's a good like first thing we ever recorded kind of deal is what it sounds like to me. Like it's raw and it's unpolished, and it just, to me, I listen to these songs and I think like it sounds like they're playing to 15 people in a mostly empty bar.
Yeah.
But I think it gets better as it goes. Like I think the first 2 songs, Go Away and There's No Way, are like they're decent, but I think that the last 2 are much better.
See, I thought "Intellectual Lover" was the one that I thought was just fine.
Really, I thought was actually the one I liked the most.
No.
It's, it's just like it's real simple, it's catchy, and like, the lyrics are silly because it's just like I don't want to listen to my very smart lover talk to me. And he just does that blah 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 thing, which is kind of fun. It's way more pop punk, I think, than a lot of these other songs are.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why maybe it stood out more to me. It's because it has sort of a different feel than the other songs. Yeah, and it just like it has the type of lyrics that I expect for a like pop punk song of this style.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, nothing incredibly remarkable. I do have a fairly interesting observation about the next 88 Fingers Louie record that I want to talk about.
Okay. But I don't know, anything to really add here to these songs?
No, I mean, like, they're like, I thought that in "Go Away" the bass lines are pretty crazy at times, so that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I did like that.
I thought "There's No Way" had some cool melodies, but it was also like kind of too long.
Yeah. I agree with that. I thought that There's No Way was like I think I just like generally like the way the guitar sounds. Like it's shitty, but in a good way type of
Mhm.
deal. And then it's got that weird solo that kind of comes out of nowhere and doesn't make a whole lot of sense because it's like super noisy and in like a much higher register than the rest of the song. It's just kind of weird. Um, but yeah, I thought that was like decent. But in the John, which is just like I mean, it's just about whacking off. Um, I thought that the beginning of it was interesting because this predates the Gray Race by Bad Religion, but it has a very similar like build up. It's like that crescendo at the beginning that builds, and then it just sort of like the whole thing just sort of like takes off from there. And it very much reminds me of the Gray Race. So I don't know if like there's like Bad Religion heard that and was like, oh hey, that's cool, or like probably somebody else did it too. You know, not like the most original thing, but still very cool. And you don't usually hear bands start songs that way.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, let's if there's nothing else to really say about Go Away, we can move on to Wanted. Um, so Wanted was released on August 26th, 1993. They're only like a few days apart. And the lineup is exactly the same. This was recorded at Sonic Iguana Studios and was engineered by Mastroianni and Jeff Hansel. And this also had 4 songs. And in my opinion, this one I liked this one a lot less than Go Away.
Oh, I think I liked this one more.
No,
So
interesting.
cool. Yeah. No, I thought it's like the first track, Holding Back. I mean, I thought that was probably, one of my favorite songs across the 2 EPs for certain.
Yeah, that one I thought like it was okay. I feel like it kind of went on a little bit longer than it needed to. It just to me it sounded like a typical melodic punk song from this time. Like it didn't really stand out to me all that much.
Um, and then the other song on this that I really liked, and the reason I liked it a lot was because it seemed that I think I was very familiar with it already, was Blink.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um, Blink, I think, was still a pretty good song.
it is.
And listening to it now, for some reason, I really thought that it sounded a lot like that Newfound Glory song, Hit or Miss.
Oh. Um Man, it's been so long since I heard that song that I couldn't really tell you.
There's
Uh,
like certain like vocal patterns and stuff that like seem to appear in both songs.
yeah, I mean it's possible that Newfound Glory liked this song. I mean, all those guys, from what I understand, those guys all like this type of music. I mean, it's what
Yeah,
they
yeah.
grew up listening to. But Blink is I mean, out of these 8 songs that we're looking at by this band today, this is the best one, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's it really shows this band's potential in particular. And 88 Fingers Louie goes on to write much better records than this. Like they're really good band. And these are, as far as starter songs go, not bad. But this is the one that I think definitely shows their potential.
Um Otherwise on this, I mean, honestly, I thought sounded the only thing I really had to say about it was that it sounded way more metal than like anything on both EPs. It just had like way more of a metal vibe to it. And then for Help, it's just another fucking example of a goddamn.
I know. We had that small streak of talking about like a couple of records that didn't have a stupid cover on it, but here we are. It's nothing special. Like it's they don't do anything unique to it. It's just the Beatles.
Yeah.
That's all it is. It's a straight cover. Like there's not really anything unique happening here. Um so I would say skip it.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Um, okay, so before we move on to the rest of the records, we're going to take a break and do some shout outs. So My shout out today is to Steel Reserve, R.I.P. in peace. If you did not know, Steel Reserve is among the many fine malt liquors that have been discontinued. And I decided to have 3 tall boys on Friday night to, wish it well in its life beyond this mortal coil. What about you, Alex?
I mean, sorry about your loss on Steel Reserve.
I haven't drank it in a while.
Personally, I mean, it doesn't really affect me, but I respect it. My shout out is going to be for a Netflix show called I Think You Should Leave, which is absolutely hysterical. And we talked about it a little bit, but if anybody's interested in some bizarre sketch comedy, just watch the first skit in season 1 of episode 2 of he's a man in
season 2, episode 1.
Yeah, sorry, season 2 episode 1, and it's just the hot dog sketch is just incredible. It's something special. All right, before we talk about these next couple of EPs, we're going to welcome in a guest. Please welcome our friend Brendan Cosgrove. How's it going, Brendan?
Hey guys, how's it going?
Good.
Great to have you on.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
All right, so the first record that we're going to talk about now is NOFX, The Longest Line. So going through the liner notes for that, NOFX recorded this on May 1st, 1992. We have the band lineup, who hopefully you're familiar with here: Fat Mike on vocals and bass, Eric Melvin on guitar, El Jefe on guitar, trumpet and vocals, and Eric Sandin on drums. It was recorded at West Beach Recorders, engineered by Donnell Cameron and Joe Pecorillo, and it was produced by Donnell Cameron and NOFX. Isn't he usually just called Don?
I mean, I wrote it out the way it appears on the track list, so
Okay.
Just say Don from now on. But
Yeah.
it's the same guys that have recorded most of the things that we've talked about at this point.
Yeah. So we should probably go
we can go track by track on this one.
Track by track on this one for sure.
Yeah.
So Death of John Smith. How'd you feel about that one, Alex?
So I like the song. It actually sounds so close to something like from Lagwagon's Duh, which
exactly
it comes months after this, so not surprising. But I really like the lyrics to this song.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's just a reminder not to put off your life for the sake of comfort. And definitely don't put off living because you feel some kind of allegiance for like a company or a corporation or somebody else. Like that's just whack. And I like the sentiment. Especially this part comes at the towards the end. The lyrics are, "After all these years of being complacent, what do I get? Tenderness, affection, a true sense of love, just pain through a body chock full of regret."
Jeez,
Yeah.
Mike.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah. Brendan, what was your experience with this record? Because were you into punk music when this came out?
When this came out, I don't think so. I mean, I may have just been like on the verge of listening to it, but this was definitely in like my older brother's tape collection.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I have a hard time like listening to NOFX nowadays. It's like I think I got burnt out on them when I was much younger. But I did want to say I think this is El Jefe's first recording with NOFX. Does anybody look into that?
Oh no, I didn't realize that. I figured that he was actually like added at a later time, but I thought he'd already been in the band, but I have no idea. I didn't look into all the history of I guess I kind of assumed that NOFX was mostly the same people the whole time.
Yeah,
I
they
think
had.
it has been that way.
It has been for the most part, but they did have a different guitarist. Let me look up his name real quick, because he was definitely on Ribbed. I know that.
Oh, okay.
Is it Dave? No. This is good podcasting, guys. I'm just
It's all
I'm going to
right.
listen to someone look over the Wikipedia page.
Yeah, it's all good.
So it definitely is the first El Jefe record.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting to see, like, because I didn't go back and listen to, because for me, this is where NoFX starts for me.
Yeah.
I don't really like anything that came before this very much. And this is like, I mean, this CP is great overall. But I think maybe El Jefe he brings something very new to this band. Not just like from his skill in songwriting, but also like he brings a different flavor entirely, as we'll talk about later.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think The Death of John Smith it's a good opening track.
For sure. Yeah, I thought like it sounded like the first Lagwagon EP, but it definitely sounded like a better version of it too.
Yeah. I think NoFX just have things figured out at this point, where they wanted to go after Ribbed.
Yeah. Did you ever buy one of those earlier albums and then just end up very disappointed?
No,
I
you did
remember
that for me because you got Ribbed, I think, or maybe
no,
it was one of
Liberal Animation.
oh,
It was even
shit.
worse. That record
Yeah.
it was rough.
Yeah,
Man, I'm kind of surprised you guys don't like Ribbed.
like I haven't I haven't listened to it in a very long time, so maybe I'd be more okay with it now. But I just remember way back when I first got into it, like Punk and Drublic was the first one I ever listened to, and then I didn't really move backwards from that one for a while.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, maybe if I went and tried Ribbed again, I'd be a little bit more okay with it. But I just don't. I looked over the track list and I just like I don't really remember any of those songs.
I Don't Want You Around is pretty close to my heart. It's just funny.
Oh, okay.
It's just I think it's about a girl that like was following them around, I think, and
Oh,
it's just like I think at one point he just says like, "Please go away."
But yeah, like, so what do we think of The Longest Line? The title track.
I loved this song when I was younger. I will say that it's been a while since I listened to it, and over the years, I convinced myself that it was about cocaine, and then was surprised to realize that no, it was not a song about cocaine.
So yeah, I mean it's a kind of funny, like, self-pitying song about a bunch of things that have gone wrong for our narrator. Uh is the person that he's singing about himself? Because or is it somebody else? Like I'm just not sure, because if he's writing about himself, like nowadays, he probably looks back on it and like laughs about how he felt when he wrote it.
Yeah. I mean, I took it a different way. It's more just like the experience of being somebody that just seems to have shit luck constantly, and being that person almost kind of traps you in it, right? Like the more shit luck you get, it just seems to like multiply and expand.
Yeah, it does seem to pile on, and it definitely changes your worldview. And sort of makes you start to feel like when a lot of bad shit happens to you all at once, you start to get that feeling of it's like, oh fuck, am I cursed?
Yeah. Um, that's how I felt about it.
Yeah. And this song, it sort of reminded me a little bit of The Cause on The Bruise, or I mean, sorry, on Puck and Drublic. Just something about, I guess, the cadence, the way he's singing,
I can see
made me
that.
recall that song, which I think is a much better song. But I like the
I actually
lyrics.
think I like this one more than the Cause.
Oh. I just think the Cause it's real catchy, and this is
Yeah.
not as catchy, but yeah, I still like this song. What do you think, Brendan?
Oh, I mean, like I said, like I didn't really prepare to talk about like lyrically these songs. I just remember like I listened to this last week, and I think it was just kind of like the EP just kind of went by, and then it gets to like Kill All the White Men, which is really
Yeah.
really different. And that's the one I was like, oh yeah, that's
Yeah, yeah. They do, if you're not paying super close attention, they do blend together a little bit. Like Stranded, like I like all these songs, but I think Stranded and Remnants are maybe a little bit less memorable.
I liked Remnants. I thought that
Yeah.
Stranded was definitely the weakest on
Yeah.
the EP. I also like that Remnants included like a lounge music interlude, which seems to be like a NoFX motif that keeps popping up.
Yeah,
Or maybe that's just because the.
I have a
I was
note
gonna
on
say
that.
maybe it's just because of the Minor Threat cover too.
Right. Which is it's pretty strange. Yeah, that interlude is it just kind of comes out of nowhere. I didn't really understand it. And then he just does the whole psych thing and then just jump back into the song. It's like, all right, okay, all right, that's there. And then like Stranded, like when I looked at the lyrics, it just is that song about a sex worker like that he's like talking to. I just didn't quite know exactly what the narrative what there was. But decent song. Remnants, I think, is a better song. It's maybe a little long. It's probably gonna be a little shorter. Um, but let's talk about the most unique song on here, "Kill All the White Man." It's how do we feel about this song right now?
it's a tough hang in 2021. This was real funny when I was in high school, and little hard to listen to now.
But I guess my question is like, was this ever intended to be truly funny though? Because like nothing about it is wrong. Like it's not. I mean, maybe because they're a band that's 3/4 white guys playing reggae music about killing all the white man. Like that is kind of funny in some way, but like everything that they're saying about white men is totally true.
Yeah. I was down with the lyrics. So I'm like, this is fucking
Yeah.
cool. Like, I didn't realize
Yeah.
like how like hard in on like colonialism and shit that they go in that song. So I thought that the song is cool. I think that of the reggae ska type NoFX songs, this might be among the best. I mean, they have some pretty bad ones too, but
I've definitely got some bad ones.
but this one's really fucking good. I also forgot that they transition into a regular song at the end because the first half is just so striking.
Yeah. It does sort of like the way that they bring it back around to sort of feeling like the rest of the songs that came before it was an interesting choice. But I like it. I like that they change it up and they don't just stick with that. And I like that part of the song. So it's got a cool evolution to it, and I think this is yet another song that like really shows pretty clearly where NoFX is going to go in the future.
And this is El Jefe singing, right?
I believe so. Yeah, at the beginning, and then Fat Mike comes in at the end.
Yeah.
And somewhere in there, and when I was looking at the liner notes, you've got Joey Cape's in the backing vocals somewhere back there. Can't hear him, but he's there. It's comforting. All right. Any more comments on The Longest Line? I think we can all agree that the Kill All the White Man is sort of the standout here. Any other favorites from it, though?
Yeah, I mean, I really like the song "The Longest Line" a lot.
Yeah,
still,
it's a good one. Yeah, for sure. All right, let's move on. Ben,
All right.
let's go through the liner notes for our final record.
So the final record is going to be Guns and Wankers for Dancing and Listening. Released on October 17th, 1994. The band lineup was Duncan Redmans on vocals and guitar, Jules Dean on bass and vocals, and then Pat Walters on drums and vocals. It was recorded at Damajive Studios, engineered and produced by Andy Davies. All right, let's get into this record. I had a lot to write about this record, actually.
Did you?
Yeah.
Well, so like, really, Brendan, you're here to talk about this record in particular because you're a big fan, and Ben and I weren't super familiar with this one. We just never really got into it, other than hearing Skin Deep on. I think that was Fat Music for Fat People.
Yeah, the first one. Yeah. Yeah, this is one of those funny releases that like just kind of got dropped without any context, or at least in America, you know? Like I don't so I think the big deal with this one was that Duncan was in Snuff, and then Snuff broke up briefly, and he formed this band. Yeah, it's just real catchy, really fun. And the difference with Guns and Wankers is that Duncan played drums in Snuff, and then he's playing guitar on this one, singing in both bands.
Oh, okay. So all right. So when you had at first said something the other day, I thought you had meant that the vocalist was the drummer, but that's not the case. Those are really rare. The whole like singing drummer deal.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's tough. That's a tough thing to pull off.
Yeah, I think
Didn't
that's why
the
you don't see it
Ergs
a lot.
do that at one point?
Yeah, I think Mikey Erg was the drummer. Yeah, it's impressive, honestly, to sing and drum. I just don't. That feels somehow, for some reason, that feels way more difficult. Maybe because, not because I have any kind of experience with any of that, but you just don't see it very often.
Feels like two different parts of the brain having to run at once.
Yeah, it's like your whole body has to go into drumming, and then like you get tired too. It's like, damn, how do you sing and drum?
Yeah, it's like it's Snuff and the Romantics, and that's about it. If anybody remembers the Romantics.
I probably heard at some point, but you know, they're very rare. The whole singing drummer thing.
Yeah.
But this record, I think it's worth noting that it's sequenced as one release, but it's actually two releases. It's two different EPs that like it's pop and hardcore are the names of the EPs, and Fat Mike just sort of sequenced it, I think, in a way that just breaks it up a little bit, and it's probably for the better. I think that he sequenced it this way, just because for me personally, if like some of the songs, they blend after a little bit if you're listening, and I think that by breaking it up a little bit, it stops that from happening, because those hardcore songs come in, because it's particularly the pop songs that sort of blend together for me, but the more hardcore type of tracks help sort of like bring my focus back to the record.
Yeah, and they also did two other EPs that Fat Mike opted to leave off this release. They did a EP called Metal, and another one called Silly. And I listened to Metal earlier, and I can kind of see why Fat Mike like left it off, because like the pop and hardcore EPs really go together pretty well, I think, and then the Metal EP is just kind of on another planet.
Really? I didn't listen to that. So is it just sounds completely different?
Yeah, it's Duncan like lowering his voice into sort of like a death metal growl, and yeah, I mean Snuff would do that on occasion too. They have like these kind of like jokey. They're always like jokey. Like they're never very like serious metal songs. They're more like parodies of metal songs. But they clearly like metal because they keep doing it.
Wait, so where are Snuff or where are Guns and Wankers from?
I don't actually know what city they're from. Let me see if there's anything on the.
But they're an English band, right?
They are English, yeah. I don't know. I mean, something in me like wonders if they're from Sunderland because like Snuff and Leatherface are sort of brother bands.
Oh,
Um,
really? Okay.
yeah, yeah. There was one of like Snuff's original bassist went and joined Leatherface at one point after Snuff broke up, and apparently after Snuff broke up, Leatherface needed a bass player, and all three members um, tried out to be the bassist.
Um. Oh, yeah. So there was also an interesting bit that I had read about Fat Mike wanting this release so badly that he like went above and beyond to make it happen.
What did he do?
Well, so what I had read was that he actually created all the artwork for the record himself because he just really wanted to release this record in America and had like no support or something. I don't know. I don't know why he would have done all of it himself unless he really, really wanted it to.
Yeah, I do know he did the cover, and it's also kind of funny listening to this album now. Like I can kind of see why it didn't really catch on because it doesn't sound like a lot of the other Fat Records bands. Like they have kind of like the speed of some of the Fat Records bands, but not like I don't know, something like just seems a little different compared to the rest of the roster.
It's a different style, I think, of punk music. It's similar, but like it doesn't feel so out of place. But I can kind of understand why people listen to this one just like, oh, I don't know.
It sounds to me like it's what I have written here is like kind of that kind of Southern California pop punk mixed with more like late 70s punk is what I hear, at least with some of these songs. I mean, I hear a lot of stuff with these songs. It's kind of all over the place.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it definitely is a little more embedded to like the late 70s punk sound than a lot of the other Fat bands.
Yeah, I agree with that. So I guess we can. Is there any song you want to start with in particular? I
Tough. Oh, I was just gonna say the tough thing about like Guns and Wankers, and also this applies to Snuff, is that like at least for me, like it's hard for me to understand Duncan a lot of times. Like I really love his melodies, but sometimes his lyrics sort of get buried.
Yeah, this one I think for all the records that we've been listening to for the podcast, like a lot of them have been remastered, and this one hasn't been. And you can really tell the production's a little muddy. It could really these songs honestly could sound even better, I think, with just like a little touch up on the mixing and mastering. But
Yeah, I think so.
I think, blah 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 it's a pretty good like opening track to this record. It's generally what the rest of the record sounds like. It's not like, too like crazy out of left field like maybe one or two of these other songs are a little more a little bit different. But yeah, I like that one. I think it's a decent starter. Were there any
Yeah.
other like what else was like standing out to you guys? Like what like or I guess Ben, what songs did you like the most from this record?
So I really like the song "Nervous." Um, it what I wrote when I was listening to it was it feels kind of Britpop almost at times on that song. And then when I read the lyrics to it, they looked like fucking Stone Roses lyrics, like talking about just like random gibberish about dreams and stuff like that. Like, so I thought that was a pretty neat song. They also kind of went in like a 80s college rock vein on the song "Help" as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely could see that.
And then The last one that really stuck out to me, I didn't think the song was particularly remarkable, but what the hell were the lyrics to Sunstroke about?
Is that the Julie Stans song?
Yeah.
It's Julie
Yeah.
and Sally, and I
Yeah.
don't understand the relationship between any of them.
I don't either. I listened to that like 3 times this morning, and I was just like, what on earth is this about?
Yeah, it sounds very specific to his life. Just like calling out these names of people, and it's like it's the last verse that stood out to me, that maybe tells you the most about what this is actually about. And it's, you thought the grass was greener, but your imagination lied. It was just a dream, and your dreams don't count when the real world comes around. It just, that seems like he's saying that to these people. I don't know. I think the thing I liked the most about Sunstroke was when he sings that a little bit, and then it's like sings it 2 more times after that. They're sort of following on to each other. And I just really like that sort of touch to the song. It's memorable.
Yeah, they're really good at like just adding little flourishes to their songs. Like I really love how the last track, "Raise Your Glass," starts, where it just kind of like it starts one guitar, then the guitar doubles, then the bass comes in, and then like it's like each instrument like starts at a different time. So they sort of like you get this like fun layering effect.
Yeah, I like it when bands do that type of stuff too. That's pretty fun. And Raise Your Glass is that's a good like closer. For this, I think, for the record. It's just about drinking and hanging out and being a fuckhead, I guess.
So is it so? That was initially what I thought the song was about, but there's like a few lines in the lyrics that almost make it sound like it's about like the IRA's like botched car bombings. When I was reading,
Wait, what?
ah man,
What lyric made you think of that?
I'm getting the lyrics up right now. Like literally like talking about like an explosion and like one guilty party or something like that.
Pass the parcel till the bubble bursts.
Yeah,
Oh,
set the fuse,
yeah.
place the charge, try to do your best to dodge the blast. 5 died, 1 embarrassed survivor. And I know like the IRA is notorious for like fucking up all their fucking bombings. And so that made me kind of wonder, like, is that what they're talking about here? Because otherwise it does just sound like
Well,
jer-
it might just be a metaphor for, I guess, a night out.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
somebody does something really fucking stupid and gets everybody in trouble, but then somebody somehow escapes the trouble, maybe.
Your use of the word trouble here is only furthering my case.
I know. That wasn't intentional, but
The line, 5 died, 1 embarrassed survivor. Maybe those 5 people passed out, and there's only one
right.
person left standing.
Yeah. It could be that, it's just a metaphor, but it's a clever metaphor. Definitely
exactly.
it speaks to the things that were happening. So I like that.
I thought that song to me sounded the most like what I expected Guns and Wankers to sound like.
Yeah. It just, there's something about that name that like you hear Raise Your Glass, you're like, oh, this makes sense.
Yeah, this was definitely a mixtape staple for me back in the day.
Oh yeah, that's good. Any other comments on any of these other songs? I thought "Blown Away" was an interesting one. It's got a kind of like a good like groove to it. And there's something about it that reminded me of the Vandals, and I don't know exactly why, but that's just, it feels like something the Vandals would have written.
Got really good simple lyrics about being in love was one thing I wrote about it, and I thought that the chorus sounded really good.
Yeah, he sings, like, I like his singing voice. But for me, I think a lot of the I don't know if it's just like the cadence and the way he sings and stuff. Like, it just, like, a lot of these songs blended for me. And I can't always put my finger on why, because when you listen to them individually, I think they almost sound better. Like when they're all collected together, I almost like it less. Like I think these songs are better like mixed into like a playlist. Like because I put it on like just random like shuffle, and one of these songs will come up, be like, oh, that's cool, I like that song. But like listening to it all together, I somehow like it a little bit less, and I think that happens with some records. But that's just my opinion of it. Any other thoughts?
What you're saying is you like this, but you just want less of it.
Yeah, maybe. I think maybe it's just like a testament to like they made the right call by making it a bunch of 4-song EPs,
Yeah, it would have been interesting to be introduced to these songs in little 4-song increments.
Yeah.
Because I think how you first like hear a band really, can really dictate how you feel about them in the future.
Oh yeah, I definitely agree with that. Any closing comments for Guns and Wankers?
I think I just want to shout out the original artwork to this. If any of you guys looked it up, it is like just they look like doodles that a 10-year-old would have made.
Yeah, and they just have like a stamp on it that says pop, and then like a stamp that says hardcore.
Yeah. I think that gives a little more insight into why Fat Mike decided to change the artwork for the US release.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of like Mike's artwork more. It maybe feels somehow wrong. I don't know. It seems like it goes with it, but I don't know. It
does make you think, like, or at least it made me think, like, oh, is this some kind of dance record? Like, am I supposed to dance?
I could see that, yeah.
Yeah, right?
For dancing and listening, like, I guess.
Yeah. I guess it makes sense. But I do like that he went and created the artwork. Just because he really wanted this thing to be released in America. All right, let's move on to our final segment.
Yes. All right. So, one thing that we want to do going forward with the series is to also talk about records by bands that were put out before they actually signed to Fat Records. So we're going to call this segment Before They Got Fat. The first entry in this is going to be Sick of It All's Scratch the Surface. So this came out in 1994. We're kind of getting towards the end of our records from 1994 anyways, so it seemed like a good time to talk about this. Alex, how do you feel about this record?
Okay, so I don't know how much I've talked about. It's probably maybe a little bit implied at this point, but New York City style hardcore is generally not my thing. There's a lot of it that I just don't. I'm just not into it. I can respect it. We were talking a little bit about Madball earlier. And I can listen to it and be kind of all right with it, but it doesn't draw me back. But this one, Sick of It All in particular, there's something about them. I get it. Like I love this record. This record is so good. And I don't know what that says about the record compared to most, that are in this style. I don't know if it really is that different, and maybe it's just like a personal preference, but there's something about it that I just really like. Brendan, how do you feel about it?
Yeah, I mean, I think Sick of It All really distinguished themselves from a lot of the other New York hardcore bands. I think they sound a lot different than the other ones. I don't know. I've always loved, like, Lou sort of has like the ideal like hardcore bark,
Oh yeah.
It's kind of growly, but he also
vocals.
yeah. But I mean, like, I believe is Craig's like he does a lot of those like bass octave notes on this album that like I don't think you'd ever hear Madball use bass octaves. I don't think Agnostic Front was doing that. I mean, for me, the sound of that, like the guitar hook is pretty catchy. It's definitely sunk down. Um, that's a really good catchy like chorus. I sent Alex, I sent you the video. I don't know if Ben you got a chance to look at it, but
Yeah, Ben, have you ever seen the video for?
Oh
Step
yeah,
Down?
I feel like
Yeah.
it should be a required viewing for most people.
Yeah.
I'm not even crazy about the song, but like that is like I feel like one of the first music videos I saw for a hardcore band.
Oh, was it?
And it was like I don't even know how I found. Like I had heard of Sick of It All before that. Even like I was already listening to them, and I just at some point like was like, "What? These bands make music videos?"
Yeah, they don't
they're on
really.
a major label. They do.
Yeah,
That's something that I actually wanted to talk about. In particular with the song "Step Down." I think it's a great song. Like I really like that song a lot. And I think it probably is the sort of catchy chorus that does it. But I thought that, it's interesting that that song in particular was one of the singles. The other single was the title track. But this is the one that everybody remembers from this record if they've listened to it. And like I just thought it was interesting that it's about underground bands and their integrity and within the scene, and yet this was an album that was released on a major label. And that doesn't necessarily have to mean anything, but like I just thought it was odd to have them talking about the underground and then they signed to a major label, especially during this time when people are being called out for that exact thing.
true, very much true. I think that they probably got a pass because they still, I think, stayed fairly true to their roots, though. Even you know what I mean, like.
Yeah.
They were still what they were. They just had, their record available in more places and, a lot more marketing behind them.
Yeah, and I do like that the video sort of speaks to that in some way with the sort of, is that like a journalist or something, or maybe it's like a record executive that's coming to watch them play, and he's just like really like it's like skeptical. It's like, what is this?
Yeah, I think it's supposed to be like an investigative report or something. And
Yeah.
It's like a guy who looks like he's dropped in from the 1960s.
Right. He's got like the trench coat and shit.
Mm-hmm.
But my favorite part of the Step Down video is when they like basically show you all the different mosh moves that you can do.
Yeah. That's it. That's the great part.
Yeah, I definitely had friends imitating the pizza maker after this album.
I had never even seen that move before. Like,
I mean, it's a joke.
But
I think most of it's a joke.
it wouldn't be what I've seen people do a lot of those moves though, and I don't know if it was because like Sick of It All did this video and then it put it out there into the world and more people saw it and started doing it. But like I've definitely seen people doing like the picking up change or like swinging their elbows and shit. That was like my most hated move that people would do when you go to the mosh pit.
Yeah, and I think I might have to talk to someone who's more familiar with the scene, but I remember people telling me that the scene on the West Coast sort of changed after this video came out because like I don't know if anybody was doing those particularly like mosh dance moves on the West Coast at the time.
Well, I know something that when like I started paying attention to this stuff, like in the early 2000s, like reading that like the West Coast was still like much more circle pit friendly. Like up and like regardless of style, like it was just a place that was much more receptive to it than like the rest of the country. But yeah, I would imagine that there probably was not kind of. I mean, the moshing was violent for certain like early '80s bands too, though. But it was like still it was different.
I think the moshing in general at shows put on by these types of bands definitely seems amped up, at least in our experience, Ben. We so one of our probably like best early memories of being friends was going to see Sick of It All play at Bogart's in Cincinnati.
That was very fun. It was the first time I saw a real fight at a show. And then Lou made fun of us for like being like the entire crowd seemed to like stop after that. He was like, "What? It's a little fight."
Yeah.
Because it was nuts. Like it was like giant. I assumed he was a skinhead, and all of a sudden there was this big brawl, and he's leaving the show with just blood streaming from his face. Saw a man dive off of the top of like the sound, like the stacks.
Yeah, he was on the speakers.
Oh, wow.
Man. He climbed up on top of the speakers, and then he like did like a cannonball into the crowd.
Yeah, no, that's a different thing. So there was the guy that did that, and he just jumped, I think, landed on the ground, and then like security immediately grabbed him and threw him out. But the guy that did the cannonball was on stage, and I think they played "Scratch the Surface," and he just runs and cannonballs out into the crowd.
Only time I've ever seen somebody do that. Like that is like a meathead move for sure.
It's a real dick move. It's kind of. I feel like it's probably the most appropriate place to do that kind of dick move, but
yeah, I feel like that's the crowd that's going to tolerate that type of behavior.
Yeah. Oh man. I liked a lot of the songs on this record. My favorites were so Scratch the Surface, probably my favorite of all of it, but I also really liked No Cure, Insurrection, Goatless, Return to Reality, and Ceasefire quite a bit.
No Cure I think is a fantastic opener. I really like the lyrics to that one. It's another sort of one of those like timeless types of lyrics, just because it's speaking to hatred and greed, and those are problems that we'll probably never get rid of. But to me, what did you guys think about Consume? Because Consume sounds like a Quicksand song. That bass line that just sort of like thumps along with the drums. And then
like, they've got like an anvil dinging in it.
Oh yeah.
I thought it was back in the Undead Burg when that happened.
Dark Souls reference for you.
Yeah, that one I had noted. I was like, is this like Sick of It All's hip hop influence coming in? Just like the way like the bass kind of goes.
Okay. Yeah, maybe. It struck me so much as like something Quicksand would have written.
And this would have been like, let's see, when did the first Quicksand LP come out?
94. I think that's when the second one was released.
I think that was 95.
So Slip was out in 93. So it kind of makes sense that, that style of music was pretty big within the scene they were in. So it makes sense that maybe they'd try to do it.
And they're both from the same scene.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, they did it successfully. I think it's a really good song. And I like, I'm not trying to say that they ripped off Quicksand, because it's just Sick of It All's version of a Quicksand song to me, which is cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of like, this album was a lot more like varied than I remembered it. Like, I think they do put in a lot of like post-hardcore flourishes into this album. It's not like a straight ahead kind of hardcore record.
I had kind of in my head assumed that most of this record just sounded like Scratch the Surface, the song, but just a little different. And at least that was my last memory of it. So coming back to it after, I don't know, 6 or so years, maybe, who knows? I thought that, there was a lot more variation in this than I remembered.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, I think that's going to do it.
Yeah,
cool.
I think that'll do it. All right, so that's going to do it for this episode. If you have any questions, comments, or most importantly, corrections or anything we might have gotten wrong, please email us at ontherecord.com. So, ontherecord@gmail.com so we can set the record straight in a future episode. We'll be back in 2 weeks to talk about Face to Face's Don't Turn Away. Thank you for listening.